The Docket. Because politics matters.
No doubt politics matters, and guess who showed up way before time today? Ayub Abdul Kadir.
Abdi.
He's never on time, he comes before time, or as the president calls him, Abdi. And of course, Edwin Obuya. Baba Shalen Karibu ingie ndani ya
Karibu.
Have you seen the memes there? Karibu. Karibu shida zetu zote ziishe.
Wamesema rais karibu anguke kama uchumi.
You guys can be happy just hoping something bad. You know that people watch TV and you can see this guy's eyes and his fingers are crossed like, maybe next time.
There's no dull day in Kenya.
I'm telling you, 100,000 metric tons of diesel. Government to government. 2 companies were given this deal. And then there's a woman called Njoroge who's probably missing, hasn't been seen since last Thursday, I think.
Yeah.
What's happening? What is behind that?
Well, it's mysterious that her whereabouts have not been established yet by the authorities, but yesterday the admission made by CS Chirchir clearly pointed to what appears a lot that is shrouded in mystery in this entire importation of the oil deal. I'll come to the main issues as to why the government had contracted the Gulf oil companies and governments in the United Arab Emirates and in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia in April this year, and the payment to be made as a result of that. But clearly it pointed to what appears to be the consequences of ditching the open tender system, which was the model of importing oil into the country to meet our needs and also supply the same to other landlocked countries that are dependent on the port city of Mombasa for their oil supply, including Uganda, South Sudan, and the Democratic Republic of the Congo. Again, this comes at a time when there are many questions and the pledges made by the Kenya Kwanza administration to end what they termed as the weaponization of state institutions and the disappearances enforced of Kenyans, and whereabouts still not yet established by the authorities. It adds up to the long list of also the unanswered question of who abducted just one try the businessman who was abducted about 2 months ago and then released thereafter. He never spoke, and the government never issued clarifications as to who had abducted him. It's the responsibility, mind you, of the government to take care of the Kenyan people. And Anne's case adds up to that, and that of course, the advisor to Johnson Sakaja, who was the liaison officer, and the former MCA who represented South Sea between 2017 and 22, Osman Khalif, who is still missing and abducted on daylight at 4 p.m. outside Side Center on Friday last week in the company of his wife. We talked to the family and they clearly were concerned about his whereabouts and safety thereafter. But coming to the question about, again, this woman, which dovetails into the aspect of the open tender system and this entire importation of the oil scheme by the government. One, since April, it failed to address the 2 main issues that the government stated this will address. First is that it never brought down the rising dollar value in Kenya. At the time when the head of state spoke at the KICC on the 12th of April this year, he said that dollar itashuka mpaka 120 hata mpaka 115. At the time it was trading against the Kenya shilling at 127 shillings. Now the dollar is 157, 30 extra shillings. And mind you, all this top up of the dollar means then we'll pay extra money of what we have agreed with these Gulf companies to import oil into the country. The second issue it failed on is that it failed purposely, as the government had stated, to bring down the cost of fuel in the country. We are trading at the highest ever on record oil prices at the pump. For those of you like Jeff, Buya, and Nick who have cars, I'm sure the pinch is now even at a close proximity because you can clearly feel. And today is the 14th midnight, so we expect a review of the prices by the Energy, Petroleum and Regulatory Authority. And therefore, clearly, it never brought down the cost of fuel in the country. The 2 main issues that the government outlined have not been met. And now paying the extra dollar on top means that billions of extra Kenya shillings will be coughed up by the Kenyan people because of the underperformance of the shilling against the dollar. And that clearly speaks to the aspect about this whole entire oil importation deal that is shrouded in a lot of mystery and a lot of secrecy, because the handling, apparently, though it's government to government, the handling of the cargo, the docking of the ship, the supply of the oil, the invoicing of these companies in the United Arab Emirates and the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia are done by individual company called Gulf Energies. So we don't understand why it's not government to government, but rather the government subcontracting a Kenyan company to be in charge of the invoicing, which is very key, and that is the payment model to be paid to these Arab Gulf countries that are largely in agreement to the Kenyan government.
Who owns Galana?
Well, not sure about Galana, but we know who owns Gulf Energy.
And who's that?
We'll do it off record.
Literally, there was no government-to-government deal. This just two companies that were given the tender to be supplying oil to Kenyan companies that are dealing in oil market. And so this scandal, actually, I think that it has taken longer to come out because we were waiting for it. Just like the oil, the mafuta deal, ile ya kupika inaitwaje?
Edible oil.
Edible oil scam. This has been coming, and it has been long in coming, and I think this will be one of the biggest scandals in Kenya Kwanza government, because it involves billions of money. This is just 17 billion, just one scandal, but there are others coming, I can assure you.
Guaranteed.
They are coming.
That's all oil related.
Oil related. Oil related.
There'll be the tree planting scandal. That will be around December 3rd there.
This one of oil, there will be a bigger scandal coming. It's not just the 17 billion. Right now, you're talking about 17 billion. Somebody is missing, and the cartels there are very vicious. If you want to handle them, then they will come for you.
They don't joke.
And Njoroge is missing. We don't know where she is. We don't know her whereabouts.
Could she be fronting for someone, Abuya?
Obviously. What happens is that one person in government fronts somebody so that ninika ako pale lakini labda ni mtu ya Gashagwa, for example. No, that's not factual. Ama ni mtu ya Kuria, for example.
Yeah.
And so it doesn't mean that Njoroge actually has anything, but just is a front of somebody. Yeah.
Well, all we can say in this business is stay tuned to Hot 96. This story is not going away.
It is not.
A visitor in town last week from South Africa came through and was part of a Pan-African...
a firebrand.
Yes.
Leto's friend, Stephen Lero.
Stephen Lero's friend. And as soon as he came in, boom, he was acting like our official opposition leader.
He did call out the president on an array of issues which are factual and substantial, and any right-thinking Kenyan would do that. And majorly what stood out was how he had labeled the president as more or less exercising an aspect of camouflaging, changing with time and where he is at a particular time.
You mean like a chameleon?
Yes, that is it. If someone changes from one tune to the other, clearly and explanations are needed. And he basically talked about, he never dwelled more on the domestic subjects because it's us who understand that better than him. And he clearly said that he is not the person he was when he campaigned. And then you can pick those points out. For example, the president and by extension the Kenya Kwanza lawmakers and supporters had denied that the war in Ukraine, between Russia and Ukraine, had impact on the Kenyan economy. And when they took over power, clearly they again said that we have felt the impact of the war by Russia on Ukraine. It tells you about the double standards and the shifting of the goalposts by these people in politics. Largely this applies across board. And then the question he brought much out, and he spoke loud about it, was the president's apparent inconsistencies when it comes to his foreign policy approach and where his support lies. For instance, he was in Southern Africa, the president, talking about the de-dollarization campaign, of even saying that the African continent needs to trade in its own currency so that the shilling can be of value to the businesses across the African continent. But here is a president who, again in September, when he went for the UN General Assembly, and days before that in New York, I was in California, was in New York, and clearly you could tell how he was endearing himself to Bretton Woods institutions, including the World Bank, the IMF, and others. It tells you about the sort of the divided loyalty. And yes, he has a point when he talks about de-dollarization campaign and talking about how influential these institutions are, the Bretton Woods institutions. For example, all the 14 World Bank presidents are American nationals, including the latest one. He has a point there. There's a need for a review of these global institutions. But here comes a president who talks about de-dollarization campaign, but did not attend the BRICS summit in South Africa that brought together the leadership of Russia, Brazil, India, and South Africa. He sent Alfred Mutua, who was unceremoniously moved from that docket now. And then still when he was invited for the Russia-Africa summit in St. Petersburg by President Putin, he wasn't there still. He sent Dr. Alfred Mutua as his representative. So these BRIC nations are moving away from the American influence, and they are also against the dollar. They are more or less for the de-dollarization campaign. But here is a president who, when he goes to the West, in Washington and in London, clearly you can see him endearing himself to a traditional colony in Britain and also the world superpower, the United States of America. And that is what Malema spoke about, that your Pan-Africanism appears to be on a very plain, it's rather pancaked, it's flat. Because Malema expected Pan-Africanism to the degree and length of what he, for example, champions for, which is to end neo-colonialism in the African continent, championing for more trade amongst the African countries, and ending dependency on the Western nations and capitals for aid, for example. And that's what he largely brought about.
As soon as the president mentioned that de-dollarization at 127, Bob,
Yes.
I noticed from then is when it started spiraling.
It shot up.
Yes, you mentioned de-dollarization again, 5 Bob.
Wanajipenda sana Americans, and so it will be very difficult for Kenya or Africa or even Russia to imagine that they are going to do away with the dollar. Not in the near future. But on Malema and what the president stood for then and what he's standing for now, the difference is like day and light. Kuna vitu mingi sana president alikuwa amesema then when he was campaigning that you see them happening right now and you say, but he said that this will not be happening. Alituambia unga itakuwa 120. It is where it is. Alisema gorogoro moja. Last time we said gorogoro moja ni 145. You know, there are so many things that are not happening that he promised that they will be happening. For example, the Abdikadir is talking about the dollar. He promised that the dollar is going to be
120.
120. Right now it's 157. And there are so many inconsistencies with this Kenya Kwanza government that when you hear or when you listen to what they were campaigning for and what is happening right now, you want to hate politicians because there are two different scenarios, what they promised then and what is happening right now.
But was he right in criticizing our president?
Yes, he was. He was defended. When Gachagua picked up on him,
the next day,
none other than the principal secretary, the Minister of Foreign Affairs, Dr. Korir Singoi, came out and said, look, we're in a free speech. He has the right to say what he said, and we have the right to be offended and the right not to be offended, which is okay.
And a simple thing like El Nino. Do we have El Nino or not? The president says there is no El Nino. The deputy president calls the Met guy and declares, El Nino it is.
And he apologizes.
And he apologizes. And he is apologizing for something that he did not say. The Met guy never said that there is no El Nino.
Yeah.
It's the president who said there is no El Nino, and then you now come, you are now forced to apologize for something you never said.
Mwangaza's goose was cooked on this very show.
I did actually. And I love being proved wrong. The Mpuri Aburi clips saved Kawira Mwangaza actually. And it changed from the evidence. It now became emotional. Every senator was now speaking about what Mpuri Aburi had said on those clips, and actually Mpuri Aburi literally saved Kawira Mwangaza because and Kawira is very good at playing that. She was very emotional. She was crying at the Senate, and so it changed from being an impeachment motion actually to being agenda issue. And people are saying that Kawira Mwangaza is being assassinated because she's a woman. And so actually that really helped her. The political intrigues also came in. The last minute Raila Odinga was calling people, the Azimio senators, to make sure that they save Kawira Mwangaza. The Kenya Kwanza side did not whip people to vote in a certain way. And so actually that then came in to help her. But the game changer was the Mpuri Aburi clips. that really changed the whole scenario and the whole debate. Actually, it moved from the evidence that was being presented to the emotional and the gender card that then was played after that Mpuria Buri clips that aired.
It's the power of mobile phones, huh?
It is. And when you hear what Mpuria Buri was saying, some of those clips, you will even want to, side with Kawira Mwangaza because the things that were being said were unpalatable, actually.
Yeah.
And really, that helped her a lot. And the lawyers, her lawyers, and her actually, they played the game very well. At times, like I said last week, that impeachment motions are not legal issues; they are political issue. And so once you play your politics right, then you get it right. But the case, after being presented, was weak, actually. When I said what I said, that her goose was cooked, I was basing my analysis on the politics of the day that were happening, because the entire lot of MPs were against her, the senator was against her, the CS Agriculture was against her, all the MCAs were against her. And so when I said what I said last week, I was basing my analysis on the politics of the day. But once, even after the first day of the hearing, you will still think that Kawira Mwangaza is going home.
The casualty in this case are the people of Meru County, because service delivery will definitely be impacted. And I think Kawira had pulled the sympathy card at the Senate, and which largely depicted the likes of Mburi, the senator, the CS Agriculture, and the whole host of men politicians and caveats who are against her leadership in a manner that had portrayed them as a patriarchal society, not ready for leadership from women. And her being an independent candidate and has no majority at the County Assembly of Meru clearly pointed out of the standoff between her and the members of the County Assemblies. That's one. Two, it shows the extent with which, when politics is not right, that the people who exercise the sovereign power according to the Constitution will still be the consequential will bear the consequences of the same. And going into the new year, clearly there's going to be a similar standoff, and one with which also the Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua had expressed concern on Sunday, saying that Meru County is a concern for us, despite the Senate settling that matter, that is saving Kawira from impeachment. He clearly meant that there's need for a working together formula between MCS and the governor, because a perpetual continuity of the current standoff clearly points to, again, standoff, another impeachment, and possibly a service delivery which will be hugely impacted, and the people will bear the consequences of that process.